even though price was lower than where I started, I was still up 0.56% in profit, even though the price of Ethereum was down 2.1%. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to my channel, The Financial Trader's Mindset. So in this video, what I'm going to talk about today is Uniswap V3, how to use it, what it's for, and the best tools to use to set up your liquidity pools. By providing liquidity to Uniswap V3, this allows traders to trade their assets efficiently. This is because the Uniswap V3 protocol allows for liquidity providers to concentrate their liquidity in specific price ranges. More liquidity means less slippage for traders. And what traders, especially large traders like whales, when they're looking to transact, they're willing to pay even a fee in order to incur lesser slippage. The lesser slippage they incur, the better. So liquidity is paramount. The more liquidity, the better. Very important. Liquidity, I say, is probably the most important thing when it comes to trading in the markets. All right, so we're going to go over different topics in regards to setting up a liquidity pool and the tools that I use to help forecast, to help model out liquidity pools, and to be able to understand where you need to rebalance and how to avoid or minimize or even eliminate impermanent loss. So let's go to the desktop. Okay, here we are. So who is Uniswap V3 yield farming for? Like, what kind of trader or who would use this platform, and who would farm yields in liquidity pools? It can apply to different traders. It all depends. I mean, it could be the yield farmer looking to generate yields on the most robust DEX in the space. I mean, currently, the high yields that you see on, say, some of the blue chips, it's probably what attracts newcomers to the space as it is, right? It just attracts people. It piques their interest, so they come in and they check it out, right? It really comes down to understanding the mechanics of Uniswap V3 and applying that to your trading strategy. You could be a trader looking to just accumulate a position over time. You could set up a liquidity pool to DCA into a specific asset that you're looking to accumulate. And then you get paid in yield for doing so, right? So no matter how long it takes to fill that order, you're getting paid in yield as long as price is in your liquidity pool range. It could be for the hodler, right? Somebody that's just holding assets and they're just wanting to generate some extra income, extra yield off of those assets while they wait through the bear market, right? You could sit there and you could compound the yield back into the position and grow your crypto that way. That way, you know, it kind of quenches that thirst for gains and for appreciation, right? So you just kind of get it in a slow drip type of yield. It can be for the investor looking for just another strategy to implement into an overall portfolio. Farming Uniswap yields shouldn't be the only strategy in your portfolio. Different strategies work in different market conditions. The yields draw in the interest from newcomers, and that's what piques their interest. But it's impermanent loss. When people experience that impermanent loss, that's that weeds out the people that aren't committed to learning the mechanics and just understanding how to utilize Uniswap V3 into their strategy. You could go quite a long time in farming liquidity pools before you eventually realize what impermanent loss is doing to your portfolio. And I've experienced this early on in my journey. I remember I was farming for months, right? And I'm thinking like I'm generating profits. I'm getting, at the time it was early 2022. And I was thinking, oh my God, I must be generating a ton of yield, right? Only to find out that, yes, I was generating 100%, 200%, 300% APR on Ethereum USDC liquidity pools, but only to find out when I calculated the P&L of my entire portfolio, I noticed that I wasn't making any profit. I was actually about break even over a few months. And it was very discouraging. And to the point where I was thinking like, okay, maybe my calculations were wrong. So I calculated it multiple times with the same result. So then I came to the conclusion that this doesn't work, right? I was thinking like farming liquidity pools just doesn't work. It's not profitable. There's something here that's just not right or working right. But then it kind of, I'm kind of a stubborn person. So I stuck with it, and I noticed that it kind of rhymed with options trading, selling options. But anyways, I'm not going to go too deep into that, but it does rhyme with options, right? Premium selling, like covered calls, short puts, strangles, straddles, those type of strategies are what rhyme with Uniswap. So if you're really looking to learn the mechanics of Uniswap V3, I have an entire course created for exactly that, learning the mechanics of Uniswap V3. Learn how every action you take affects your overall strategy, right? And how to compose and form and create liquidity pools to fit your trading strategy, right? See, this is not a course on my trading strategy, right? Because as you've seen in my previous videos, which I'm linking right up here, I can't take my tailored suit or my tailored strategy and don it on you. It just won't fit you. If you're interested, link is in the description below. You can also join my Discord. Link is also below. Free to join. Feel free to ask any questions you may have. I'll be happy to answer them. And if you're interested in the course, link is also below as well. All right, so back to the video. So what tools do I utilize to create my liquidity pools in Uniswap V3? You can see here we have DeFi Labs. Now I'm going to have all the links to each tool in the description below as well, so you can easily access them. And this is probably the most important tool in my arsenal, right? I model out my liquidity pools. I'm forecasting the yields. I plan out where to rebalance. And then I also target and track impermanent loss. And I do all this before even staking my initial liquidity pool. I will have my liquidity pool planned out, where I rebalance on the upper end of the range or the lower end of the range, how I rebalance that pool, what the impermanent loss will be. All that will be planned out before I even stake my first liquidity pool. Now, it's very important to plan all this out, because setting up a liquidity pool is not only a little time consuming, right? Swapping to the appropriate ratio based on your pool, but also when it comes time to rebalance, it allows you to be mechanical. When that price trigger hits and you're like, okay, it's time to rebalance, which camp would you rather be? Would you rather be in the camp of pre-planning your trade, like using DeFi Labs, knowing exactly how to rebalance the pool when the price trigger hits? That way you're mechanical and no emotions. Or would you rather be the trader that's in a liquidity pool and they're freaking out because there's a high volatility, they don't know what to do, and not even taking into account the impermanent loss that they're going to lock in by not being prudent enough to plan ahead, right? So it's very important to pre-plan and forecast everything. It's kind of like a trader, right? Like when you're trading the markets and you're looking to get into a trade, it's very easy to just jump into a trade and then ask, okay, where's my risk now? Let me just get in and I'll figure out the risk. You know, it's such a low barrier to entry, and it's very forgiving in that manner, right? But when it comes to staking liquidity, it's very important to plan all this out and forecast everything and pre-plan what you're going to do before you even stake your liquidity pool. Because if you make a mistake, you might not realize it until weeks down the line or even months down the line, depending how active you are, right? So very important. So here on DeFi Lab, you can access different blockchains, right? You got Ethereum, you got Optimism, Arbitrum, Polygon, you know, all of the, they even have Base now on here, right? Arbitrum or Avalanche, sorry. And then you have all your liquidity pools here, right? So say I'm on Ethereum. I like to farm Ethereum USDC pools. You select that. You can switch the base token between USDC and ETH. Let me zoom in here a little bit so you guys can see. Pop in how much you're going to invest, right? Like say 10 grand, current price 1630. And then here's where you set up your ranges, right? And then you can model out, you can compare different liquidity pools. Here you have a V3 a strategy 1, which is the first liquidity pool. Then you got V3 strategy 2, which allows you to set up a second liquidity pool to kind of compare the two to see which one is better, which one that would fit your strategy better. And then you have unbounded V2. That just means it's a standard vanilla liquidity pool that's staked from a price range of $0 to infinity. So the full range, right? So you can compare against that as well. I use the position breakdown, and this is where I figure out if price gets close to 1733, if I want to rebalance to keep price in range while minimizing impermanent loss, this is where I do it. Now, I go more in depth in this in my course, so if you're interested in learning, it's all in there. But this is where it all begins. A second tool I use is APY Vision. APY Vision allows you to track individual liquidity pools to where you can see exactly how it's performing. You can see how much yield you're earning, where the position income is. So this is over the course of 78 days, earned $421 worth of yield in a Bitcoin ETH pool, earning about 4.37% APR or APY. I'm in a pretty wide pool on this because I don't want to manage it too much. And, and it shows you the performance over time. You know, we've been in a downtrend. So I'm just generating yields on my crypto, right? So this is a great tool, and it's got so many metrics in here. It's definitely worth checking out, right? You can see exactly like your transactions, you know, what you've done, how it's performing, how it performs versus hodling, right? You got this hodl value, right? This is how much my pool would be, or how much my holdings would be worth if I didn't have it in a liquidity pool. So I'm actually outperforming just holding by just like $372, which you can see right here. You know, net market gains, you know, what can you do? Markets in a drawdown. It is what it is. But this is a great tool. And then you also have the option, which is great, to export to CSV. You can export to a spreadsheet that allows you to really track your liquidity pools, track your impermanent loss, track your performance, your P&L, your yield. Very important to do that. As you can see on this spreadsheet, right? This is a spreadsheet of a vault that I run. And you can just kind of get an idea. You see the fee APR in this pool. I haven't updated this in a couple months, but you could kind of get a general idea, right? Like I got all the data exported here. And then you can see the average invested. You can see the fee APR, right? How much I gained, how much I lost, projected, return, which is more just forecasting. And then what I like is column K here in the red, showing how much I'm performing versus just simply holding, right? So outperforming by 3.72%, right? So this is very good to just track and stay on top of, because like I said, impermanent loss, it's not easily felt or recognized if you're not looking for it. It only gets recognized when it's too late. So it's very important to track it. The last tool I want to talk about, which is currently in beta, and it's called Aperture Finance. Now, what this tool does, it rebalances your liquidity pools automatically based on either a time, a price, or a ratio in your liquidity pool. So I'll show you right here. I farmed it for about a few weeks using this tool. And I have this Twitter post where it breaks it all down, right? Where initially I started farming, it was farming 176% APR. And this was during the time when Ethereum was very volatile, from like around July 11th. And you can see price was around 1860. It ramped up to over 2000, came back down. So as a liquidity provider, for those that are experienced, you can be like, wow, this would be a hectic way to trade with tight liquidity pools where you have to rebalance consistently. And during those few weeks, I rebalanced about 10 times, right? In 3 weeks. Let me go back to the post here. So you can see here 176%, 92%, 34%, 50%, 79%. This is all on Ethereum USDC liquidity pools. Here is kind of like a little breakdown on the Aperture Finance beta test, July 11th through August 2nd. When I first started staking the liquidity pool, I started out at a price of $18.79, and I was able to farm them very tight. And using proper mechanics of Uniswap V3 and really understanding how to control impermanent loss, even though price, like if I go here, even though price was oscillating from 1870 to 2000, and then came down back to 1830, right, below my entry price, even though price was lower than where I started, I was still up 0.56% in profit, even though the price of Ethereum was down 2.1%. Now you can see that farming, as you know, farming very tight ranges in your liquidity pools boosts. It gives you a boost in yield. Yields increase. It's because you're concentrating your liquidity around that price. So you have more liquidity there to be used, which allows you to earn more fees. So having the ability by using the Aperture Finance tool, I was able to generate enough yield to offset the losses and even come out in profit, even though price was down 2.1%. So you can see that for someone like me that I just don't have the time to sit at a computer and manage my liquidity pools actively, I can use a tool like Aperture Finance to manage it for me and allow this opportunity. So it's very great for that, and I can't wait until it gets released into production and where everyone can use it, right? So yeah, very excited about that tool. Set up a trigger to rebalance your liquidity pool, right? So you go here to automated rebalanced. You have the option of price, ratio, or time, right? You could set at a certain time, it could rebalance. The ratio is just stating what ratio your liquidity pool is between the two assets. And that's when it'll rebalance, right? And then you also have price, which is my favorite one to use because I like to use price to rebalance and I find a specific price. So you could enter in here if Ethereum is above, 1700, right? And then you could even select the time buffer. If you could put it in hours. Like say if price is above 1700 for 2 hours, then rebalance the pool. Or you could just leave that out, right? You could just leave that time buffer out. And then you go down here, you set up the new ranges you want, right? Like say when it gets above 1700, I want this to rebalance to 1700 to 2200, right? Or whatever, right? Whatever you want. Then you come down here, it says it expires in 90 days. So if it's longer than 90 days, let me move my camera thingy here. And then you could see here, you could set up the automated rebalance. You can even set up a gas fee ceiling, right? The max amount of gas you want to incur for this transaction. I like to set it a little higher, right? Because, you know, even like as high as like $1, right? Like, you know, that way you're insured that it goes through, right? Otherwise, it would just wait. The tool will just wait until gas fees calm down, and then it'll initiate the transaction, right? So as long as the gas fee is below the ceiling, and when price hits that trigger, it would automatically rebalance, right? And you go to setup, you know, you can set it up here. You sign the petition, the position permit here, and then there you go. It'll be set up and ready to go, right? And all you have to do, you could set up, like say I set it up on the upper end of the range, and then you could set up a second one for the lower end of the range, right? Which is great. So you could have a trigger on the high end of the range and a trigger at the low end of the range. So wherever it goes, whichever one hits first, that's the one that rebalances the pool based on those parameters in that trigger, and it would set up the new pool. Then you would have to go in again and set up a new trigger, which hopefully in the future they'll be able to automate that as well, like to set up liquidity pools based on how much impermanent loss, like the max amount of permanent loss you want to lock in, right? This is the max amount I want to lock in. Anything below that is fine. And then it could rebalance it for you, right? Automatically. So it could be like fully automated. That would be very cool. But yeah, but for now, this is fantastic because what it does is it allows me, because see, for me, like I don't have time to sit in front of a computer watching my liquidity pools when I'm farming very tight ranges. I can set up a tight range. I can set this up. And then, especially like at night before you go to bed, you don't have to worry about, you know, before I had to, you know, I would wake up and always check my liquidity pools. Okay, it's still in range, right? Or, oh man, it's going out of range, or, oh man, it blew out of the range, right? Especially when crypto is volatile. That's just a pain in the ass, right? Because I had to get up and go to the computer, rebalance the pools, and then I could go back to sleep. But with this, at least you have, you know, that safeguard to at least rebalance it one time, you know, when you're not available. And then it just gives you time to come back and then set up a new trigger for the new range that you'll need. And you'll still be farming in the meantime, right? Without having to worry about going out of range. So, yeah, this tool is still in beta, but if you sign up for the beta, make sure to mention my name, float_locker, or just say float locker, or, you know, or reference this video, or find me on Discord, DM me on Discord. Feel free to DM me and I'll help you out. But yes, there you go. That's a summary on the tools I use to set up my liquidity pools: DeFi Lab, APY Vision, and Aperture Finance. Aperture Finance still in beta, so I'm not using it for my major liquidity pools, but I can't wait to use that one. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.